Welcome back to the circle, everybody. Lostboys Cypher Circle is back in session. If you don't know, now you do. This is home of all things artistic. If you have a song, a poem, a rap, a story, just a conversation you want to have, this is the place to come get your thoughts and your feelings heard. It's our weekly talent show. It's our weekly therapy session. And if you want to come on the show, hit me up on Facebook at Dylan Lawler or on Gmail at lostboy420x@gmail.com. That's lostboy420x@gmail.com. Before we get started, guys, I just want to say I apologize for not coming out next week. And I know that I missed it, but I gave you a little bit of something to watch. I hope you all enjoyed it. I don't know how many people watched it, but it was just a little snippet I recorded I think it was a few months ago for the birthday intermission clip. And when we played it on the birthday clip, it was you couldn't hear the audio. It was cutting in and out. So I thought it would be good to get that out there so y'all could watch it. So I apologize. I missed it last week, and I'm happy to be back. Before we get started, as I always say, mental health is a big part of my life. It's a big part of my show. It's a big part of everything I do here. And I always try to reach out a hand to the other artists, to anybody watching the show, and just say, I'm here to talk. There is other people in your life, whether you believe or not, that are there to talk. And you can always find someone. And if you can't, there are some hotlines you can call and some resources I'm going to share with you, such as 988. You can text them. That's a hotline. Also go to their lifelinecrisis.com, and they have trained professionals on standby to help you and talk to you and give you guidance. There's also betterhelp.com, which is not free, but is one of the cheapest therapy options out there. They'll hook you up with they'll hook you up with an online therapy online therapist in like 48 hours. If you don't like the person that you're talking to, they'll switch it out with someone until you find someone that you're actually comfortable with. So that's really a really good service they provide. I hope you can find some help there. One more thing I did want to share with you guys. The reason I was not here last week, before we do the trigger warning, thanks, Brendan, but before we do the trigger warning, one more thing I did want to share with you guys. The reason I was not here last week is because I went to a concert. I took my girlfriend there for her birthday. It was Jelly Roll, and he is one of the most inspirational and like down-to-earth artists I've ever listened to. He writes and talks about mental health and overcoming addiction, all the same things that I write and talk about. And he said something at the show that really resonated with me, and I wanted to share with you guys. And it's something that apparently somebody said to him early on in his career, and that is to work on progress and not perfection. So I want to say that to you guys tonight. Work on progress and not perfection. You know, it doesn't need to be perfect. As long as you're working towards your goal, as long as you're working to be better, that's all that matters. Progress and not perfection. That being said, before we get into the show, you're right, Brandon. I do want to give a trick. It's always a tongue twister for me. Quick trigger warning. Say it 5 times fast. I dare you. I want to give a quick trigger warning because we talk about some sensitive topics on the show, being that it's mainly focused around mental health and addiction and whatnot. If anybody is uncomfortable, no one will discount you in the slightest or be upset with you if you leave. That goes for the artist. That goes for anybody watching. It is 100% a place where we should feel comfortable to be ourselves and not feel like we're triggered in any way. So I hope that we don't trigger anyone in any way, and we can have a good night tonight. And I need a drink of water because that was a mouthful. And one more thing before we get moving on with the show. I know I've said that like 4 times here, but I want to announce, as of now, we are on Spotify. Lostboys Cypher Circle is on Spotify. It's been on YouTube. So, and it's coming to everywhere else you watch podcasts very, very soon. It's going to be on Google, Apple, SoundCloud, everywhere. So stay tuned for that. But right now, go subscribe on YouTube and on Spotify at Lostboys Cypher Circle. And let's get these artists up here because apparently I can't talk tonight. Our first artist tonight is going to be Skedaddle. She's been on here before. She's a digital artist, makes some of the most intellectual and amazing artwork that I've ever seen. And she's a longtime friend of mine. If you guys want to follow her, you guys can follow her on Twitter at Skedaddle. That's SKEDADDLES_art, or on Instagram at x.skedaddlesart or x.skedaddles.art.x. And that's on Instagram. And let's play her flyer and get her up here. I love the music for your flyer. And I just fucking jamming out to. That's why I made it like 45 seconds long, because it's just. I'm sorry I can't English tonight. I'm having a little problems with my speech pattern apparently. But it's good to have you on. I'm sorry, I didn't. What's that?
Oh no, you're good. I said I always struggle speaking, so.
Yes, it's good. I have like dyslexia reading, but I also have like dyslexia talking. Thank you for coming back on. I appreciate it, especially like last minute. I always like, I kind of panic a little bit sometimes when I have to ask somebody last minute, because like it feels like such an ask to have somebody like, oh, do you want to come and do a live show on the internet like without any notice? Like it's such
I'm kind of a spontaneous person, so. And it's an honor to be here. What you do here is amazing. So
thank you. I appreciate that. So I talked a little bit about you, but you want to talk a little bit about yourself without all the stuttering?
I'm a digital artist. I'm also a commission artist. Yeah. I don't say much about my life. So I'm a digital artist.
All right. Well, we'll just leave it at that. That's cool. So you've obviously been on here before, and you've shared a few of your pieces. What's one of the pieces you're going to share with us tonight?
Sunbathing.
And is this new, or is this something that?
It's a slightly older piece.
Okay.
It's probably a couple months old by now.
Okay, and that is this piece, correct?
Yes, Mushroom Lady on Flower.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Where you were at in your life when you wrote it, maybe the feeling behind it, the feeling you were feeling when writing it, the feeling you hope to convey to the audience.
I was more practicing poses and stuff, and like how objects work with each other. You know what I mean? So there wasn't necessarily a feeling behind it. It was more of just a practice piece.
So you said it's slightly like, is it months or years or?
A couple months.
Because I know
4 months by now.
Okay. All right. And so you want to tell us, so most people might not be familiar with like digital art and how that all works, and like what exactly it is you do. Like, so you want to talk a little bit about like, start to finish, like the process of how you work on a piece? Or
start to finish is a little chaotic, but the app I use is called Ibis Paint X. It's actually, if you are like into digital art and want an easy app to use, Ibis is one of the best, and it's completely free. So, but you kind of just go with the flow. Everyone asks how I do it, and I go, I don't know.
So I know that you used to because we've been friends for a while. Like, I know that you used to draw more, like, pen and pencil. Do you still sketch out your idea and then kind of recreate what you want to do on the thing, or do you start on the computer?
So unfortunately, I've had a little bit of a housing situation recently, and I lost all of my art equipment. So the only thing I can do right now is digital, but I'm hoping around Christmas time I'll get some more.
Yeah, yeah. You never know. You never know what Santa's gonna bring.
And then I'll
Yeah,
start doing yeah.
you
And
never
then I'll
know.
start doing paintings, which I'm so excited for.
I can't wait for that. Honestly, I would pay you to I'll mail you some just like blank canvases. I'm gonna start collecting canvases. It's something I've recently started doing. So far I found them at the store that I work at, and then I found another one at Burlington Coat Factory. They're super cool. I'll send you pictures of them later. There's a Batman, there's a Spider-Man, and then there's the Avengers, and they're like, it's super, like, the detail in them is fucking amazing. It's just, I was just like, so I want to start like collecting canvases, and your artwork is definitely something I would start hanging up on my wall, like especially some of the one of your other pieces. If you don't mind, I actually have it. Can I show it real quick? Because it's one of my favorite. I like it. It's this is called Smoke Break, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I kind of just, it's just a vibe for me. She's just like looking up at the stars. I can tell she's, you know what I mean? Like, she's just in the zone. It's just like a whole vibe for me. That would definitely be like a art piece that would go great on a canvas.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
yeah. That being said, I'm gonna bring these other artists up here to see what they think of your um what what is it called again? The
Sunbathing.
sunbathing. Thank you.
No problem.
Um, how about we start with Neil? What do you think?
I love all art. So seeing this, it's just absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love it. Especially the smoke break. And the reason why I liked it is because the second you said the title, that's what I felt. That's what it looks like a smoke, like she's relaxing. She's like maybe a waitress, or just someone who's like, oh, I really needed this, and it reflects in the picture. The
Mm.
even in sunbathing, that looks like sunbathing. It's titled the way I feel the words through the photo.
Yeah,
So
she's very good with titles, and
it's
she'll like, honestly, sometimes I know this for a fact, that she'll name them like last minute, and it'll end up being like the perfect. She, she's just like, oh, just look at it, yeah, sunbathing.
yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
fits so well. Um, I don't know if Shannon had her camera off, but are you with us, Shannon?
I'm with you. I just have to pee.
Okay, that's bathroom breaks are allowed. You're all right.
I love
Sylvia.
the fact that you can't tell if the sun is setting or rising. I love that. It's
Yeah,
very interpretive.
yeah. I honestly didn't notice that. Yeah, you're right. Like, I interpreted it as rising. I don't, honestly, now I'm questioning how my brain interpreted it, because when you say sunbathing, it feels like it's more of the daytime, but like, I don't know, that, yeah, that is I like how you pointed that out. That's um yeah, the inverse effect of the way you look at it, you can see it one way or the other. Yeah, I do like that. That's fantastic. Sylvia, did you have anything to say or add?
It's very pretty. I like the whole thing. Not just sunbathing on a flower. And also, I'm wondering, is it the morning or is it the evening?
It's up for the
Yeah,
viewer to decide.
What was that?
It's up for the viewer to decide.
That's true.
I like that. I like when art is interpretive like that.
I love it.
Thank you very much for sharing with us. We'll see you in a few more minutes for to show your second piece. And that being said, we will get our second artist up here in just a minute. That would be Neela. She's a wonderful woman. She's a poet. She's one of the best artists we've ever had on here, and it's an honor to have her back on. If you want to follow her, you can follow her on TikTok at Poetry Rose 42, on Instagram at Poetry Rose 1, or on Facebook at Neela McSwain. And I'm going to play her flyer and get her up here.
This poem is called Prayer. On my knees I say to my best friend, I thank you for life. In my head I giggle, 'cause why knees when you're sitting right next to me? My Lord and King, my everything. So I guess prayer is the thing now. It used to be how you wrote to me. In spoken songs, you adorned me so lovingly. I wake thinking of you in a way this world can't understand. It's not thought, it's... That poem is called Prayer.
I love how you end your poems sometimes. Like, it's on this, like that. Like, it's, you know what I mean? It's fantastic. It's just on that pause, and it's just that, like, interpretive, like, you know what I mean? It is absolutely fantastic. And I believe, well, either last time you were on here, you did a poem that ended very similar, or it was your previous flyer.
It was
One of the other flyer.
Symphony. It was, the poem's called Symphony, and that's how it ended. Like God was always a.
Right. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. And I love how you do that. That is fantastic. It's like very, very like hard technique to pull off. And it's like, me personally, I've only ever done it once, and the poem is called, it's a song, a rap poem song, whatever. It's called Speaking to Demons, and it ends until then I'll just keep speaking to these. And it's implied that speaking to these demons, but because I used these because it rhymed with a line before it, or something like that. But it's very hard for me personally to use that technique, is just that like pause, and that, like, you know what I mean? I always have to have a very like solid ending, and you pull it off magnificently. So
Oh, thank you. I love that. Just that little bit, that speaking to demons and then speaking to these. It just reminds me of, like, because I'm an advocate for schizophrenia and mental health and things of that nature, and I talk about my journey a lot. So it's like speaking to demons, and then you can interpret when you go speaking to these. It's like, is it me? Is it the demons? Is it
right.
That,
Exactly. And the piece in question that I'm actually talking about, it is actually that exact, focused on that exact idea. I'm literally having a conversation with myself.
yeah.
But anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you a little bit. You've been on before, but those of us who don't know you, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and your writing and what you do.
My writing is just my talent. It's what I do. Always loved writing since I was a kid. In fourth grade, I was in Talented and Gifted Kids for writing and stuff like that. And it just progressed. In about 2010, 2011 and stuff like that, I started digging more into my artistry. I wanted to, I started writing movies and poetry with them. Like my stitch will be, there's always a poem before the movie to describe what goes on there. And so I just started progressing. 2018, I had a schizophrenia. It runs in my family, and it happened to me. And now it's just my recovery from it. So I'm just right back where I left off. So I'm a huge advocate for schizophrenia, huge advocate for mental health. So that's exactly why I love, this show, because you're an advocate for it too. And my poetry, it reflects that. Some of it is just me. Sometimes it's influenced by what I hear in the background. And a lot of it is all spiritual and things of that nature. So, yeah, that's
That's
me.
fantastic. Well, it's amazing to have you back on. It's an honor to have you back on. Like I said, you're one of our favorites. Me and my producer Brandon, we were one of the people that we have talked about, and we're like, oh, like we gotta have her back on. Like she's amazing. But it's honestly, that's almost everybody I bring on here is like, just I am so blessed to have so many amazing, not only people but amazing artists. Like because you're amazing people first, and then you're super talented artists second, and or you might feel some people like me, I feel like I'm an artist first and a person second, but that's just. But I guess we have to be a person. We have to be a person before we can be an artist because it's we're sharing our person, we're sharing our, But I
The artist
thank
our
you so much.
introvert is our person, if that
Right?
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's amazing that I can have people like you on here. So thank you so much for coming back on and engaging in our weekly therapy session. It is fantastic. What's the first piece you're gonna be sharing with us tonight?
This one's called Soulmate.
Soulmate. Okay. All right. I'm gonna drop myself out of here. Let's see.
Okay, this poem is called Soulmate. Sometimes I wonder, is this love true? You seem to see me, but I can't see you. Is this really a destined love coming from the stars above? When you look at me, I see your love, but actions I can't speak of. All those things you conceal, which makes me question, could this be real? I say I love you, you say it back, but you don't believe those words I act. You see in me another dream, a flame you see blazes in me. In this dream, another man could be there if I reach this plan. The fire you see in my eyes when I speak of my desires. But what you don't see in me is the little girl who looks just like me, sitting on top a hill, looking at the stars so real. She was there all alone, till one day this boy came on. He wrapped her up and took her home. He squeezed her in his arms so long, and when she started moving with resistance, he would hold her closer and fill her with kisses, screaming, "You belong to me in this life. You are beyond something so trivial as husband and wife." He continued to heal her lonely heart. From that day, she hoped he would never part. So you see, my true love, it is you who was sent from those stars above. So even with that dream reached, I only want you next to me. So believe in me when I say, I love you, so don't go away. For if you do, my heart will break, because you are the one who's healed that ache. For you are my star-crossed love that came from the stars above. For her wish, it came true the very day that I met you. That poem is called Soulmate.
That was beautiful. I don't know
Thank you.
if I think I'm supposed to snap, but I'll clap too for everyone in the back. I can't hear the little butterflies. That was amazing. That was beautiful. And I say this every time I hear a love poem on the show. It is something that's very hard for me to write about. Not because I guess I have written about it. But it's hard for me to get all my thoughts and feelings together because there's so much to say about love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when I write a piece, I want to I kind of try to say everything I have to say about the subject, and there's just too much to say on the topic. And
Yeah.
so it's hard. So it makes it hard for me to write love poems. But that was amazing, and it was like your rhyme scheme had this very I don't want to say old timey, but it was very it was very classical poetry, like a very and it was very like a soothing, like you could read it to someone like when they're going to bed, or you know what I mean? You could read it like next to someone like sick bed, or like to soothe someone, like you know what I mean? Like it made me feel like whoever that's about or whatever, like it that it's very special, and that person is very lucky, and that person's very special, and that when you read that, you give off that energy, and you give off that um that field of just let me hold you, everything's going to be okay, we'll get through this together. And let's just yeah, it is amazing that you're able to convey the feeling of love through your poetry, because like I said, that's something that I struggle with. A lot of my stuff is dark and it doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy. That did make me feel kind of warm and fuzzy. So props to you. That was amazing.
Thank you. I have dark poems too, and when I first started writing my writing style, my name was going to be Hathor, and she was the goddess of love and war. So I would write about love, and then some would be war. So I'm glad
Oh,
you
I
conveyed that.
like that. I like that. That is cool. That's like that. I like the duality
Yeah,
of you know, the relationship between love and violence,
yeah,
or love and hate. It's because they're very, people don't realize that they're very similar emotions,
yeah,
and it's basically the same emotion, just with a different pathway, a different outcome. You know what I mean? It's passion, and what you choose to do with that passion. You know what I mean? Love
yeah,
has started wars many,
yeah,
many, many, many times. You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's one of the main causes of war. Yeah, I love that duality. And you should keep that name. I like that. That's cool. I'm a big fan of Norse mythology and everything mythology.
I
Uh, I
am
got,
too.
I got, and before you even explained it, I got it right away. I got it right away. I was like, yes, yes, that's awesome. I'm gonna bring our other artists up here to see what they thought of your piece. Who would like to speak first?
I would.
Okay, go ahead.
I loved it. I thought it was really great. Um, classic love poem. I also have a mental illness that runs in my family, and I think that a lot out of the ashes is what causes a lot of our ability to create and to be artistic.
Yeah,
So I really liked it.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was super sweet.
thank you.
I don't know. I kind of heard like some bittersweetness to it where there's like this love, but it's questioning, and there's almost like an undertone of like fear and vulnerability that I think you captured really well without losing any of the sweetness or sincerity.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic too, because like there is, like, in every relationship, whether it's romantic love or just, I mean, even love with a family member, there's always that insecurity. There's always that, but
Yes,
like especially with romantic love, especially with starting with somebody for the first time and like you don't really know them or whatever,
yeah,
it's is always that like insecurity. Or even if you're like, I have known my partner for 10, 11, maybe I've lost count. It's definitely a decade or more, and there's still that, uneasiness, that insecurity, that, because that's what love is, and that's what we're here for as partners, is to lift each other up and to help each other get through that insecurity, and to make each other feel, safe and secure and warm and fuzzy, even though
yeah.
we are feeling that insecurity. And yeah, you captured that fantastically.
The
Is that a word,
moving
fantastically?
that's what the moving with resistance. He would hold her closer and fill her with kisses. It is that vulnerability because it's when you come from broken family and things of that nature. You're always questioning, do you really love me, or you're waiting to see the ball drop. So yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And again, thank you so much for being on the show again. It is wonderful every time you come on, and we will see you again in a few minutes for your next piece.
Thank you much.
Absolutely. Um, that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to our third and newest member to the circle, Sylvia Chapman. She's a poet and a children's author. You can follow her on Facebook at Sylvia Alvarez, yeah, Alvarez Chapman, or on the Facebook group Poetry Contest. I'm a member of it myself. I've been a member of it myself for maybe like 2 years now, met a lot of fantastic poets on there. You can see a lot of fantastic poetry on there. Sylvia's on there, and she has some amazing poetry you can go check out on there. So make sure you guys go check out Poetry Contest group on Facebook. Just click the join button. I think maybe you have to answer like a couple questions about poetry, but that's it. And you just so make sure y'all go check that out. And that being said, we're gonna play our flyer and get her up here.
Pain. Why do I suffer through this pain? It's enough to drive a person insane. When your body turns on you and your mood is oh so blue, other people heal so quick and you're stuck in the thick of it. It's because your immune system doesn't work, makes you feel like such a jerk. So many operations have gone bad, leaves you feeling very sad. Cannot do what you used to do, leaves you feeling not like you. Cannot help around the home, makes you feel so alone, makes you feel such anxiety, questioning your psychiatry. Watch your family do everything, not able to help with anything. Makes me sad to feel so bad. Just depressed on the couch, my shoulder, my foot, a great big ouch. It's hard to watch my sister's toil, leaves me in such turmoil. I have to settle with what I can do, what I can accomplish to help my crew. I may not be able to do everything, but I am alive, and that's something.
I like that. That was I wanted to when you first sent that to me, I was very busy. So I figured I'd just take the time to say it now on the show. That resonated with me a lot because I grew up with a mother who was terminally ill. She passed away a few years ago. And when she was healthy, she was such a workhorse. Like, when she was younger, my age, she was working like 2-3 jobs and she was working in the medical field, and she was just amazing, and just so it hurt her so much when she couldn't do what she used to do, and she couldn't do anything that she wanted to. You know what I mean? She used to hike, she used to all these things, and she'd see me come back from a hike, and she'd be happy for me, but I know that it would kind of upset her because she can't go on a hike either, and like. So that really did resonate with me a lot, and it meant a lot to me. So thank you for that.
What happened to me was my tendon ruptured on my foot, and then I've been through 7 different operations, and the last doctor botched the last operation, and I didn't know you only had 2 years to sue them, and it was the 3rd year, and I tried to see if I could go that route because I became disabled because of it. And I wasn't able to. And then I was walking down the stairs. I take care of my parents. They're both in their late 80s. And I was walking downstairs and I slipped and I grabbed onto the banister, and my body took the weight. My shoulder took the weight of my body, and I got what is it called, Randy? Torn rotator cuff. And then about 4 months after the operation, I was in physical therapy. I realized it was starting to hurt more and more. Well, they did a CAT scan. Turned out that it had just ruptured again. And so now I can't really help out my parents I'm taking care of them, but I can't help out my sisters very much, and they can't help out me because of the problems that I'm going through. And that's where that poem came from. As I really was on the couch, couldn't really do much, couldn't really help out my sisters. Now I'm taking care of my parents, just my husband and I by ourselves. So that's been a real kind of a trial.
Yeah, that's really tough, and I think that a lot of people will relate to that poem in one way or another, whether it's they have been there themselves or they have a relative who's been there. I mean, I've been there in certain situations myself. I've had a couple surgeries, and it was only a couple weeks for me, but it sucks. And from like seeing my mom just go through it for years, where she was just like she would literally get up and try, and then an hour later she'd be like, now I gotta lay down for 2 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I just used all the energy I have trying to, and it was just it was sad. It was sad to see, and I think that you will touch a lot of people with that poem.
Thank you.
Whether it's like very severe like my mom, or whether it's like an internal injury, or whether it's a physical injury like that, or just people have been put on disability and aren't able to work but they want to, or anything like that. I think a lot of people, especially after COVID, can really sympathize with that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? You haven't been on the show before, so yeah, I want to give you the chance to talk about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Well, I have a mental health background. Not that I work in mental health. I'm mentally ill. So I'm bipolar, and I have dissociative identity disorder and some anxiety. And so I ended up in the hospital for a few times. And then after that, I felt like God helped me because I started writing. And I felt like out of the ashes, again, I was able to get this blessing where I can write. And I like to write poetry. I write children's stories. I'm trying to get published. I have an appointment with an agent. So I'm definitely on a path to getting my life back together.
That's awesome. Well, good for you, and congratulations with that.
Thank
And
you.
I hope that it turns out well for you. And and also there's no if remember that rejection is the most common thing that an artist is ever gonna hear, and eventually someone's not going to reject you, and they can't ignore you forever, or you can just do it by yourself. The independent industry is as big as it's ever been,
Right.
and growing and getting bigger. So the independent industry, both in music and in self-publishing, is booming right now, and it's the perfect time to jump on that. So but yeah, that is wonderful that you have an agent willing to or you said you have an appointment with the agent to
Yeah,
see
she's
if
going to
they'll.
help me decide whether I want to go the traditional publishing route or the self-publishing route. And the poem, not the poem, but the book that I'm going to read tonight, I'm thinking more towards self-publishing because it does talk about God or the maker of all things, and it is about racism. And I think that the self-publishing route would be more accepting of a book. I could publish what I want,
Yeah,
rather
yeah,
than have to go through a traditional publisher.
yeah. I mean, especially with the media climate being what it is, with everyone and their mother getting canceled for this and that and the other thing. Like that's why, I mean, that's why I do this, and that's why a lot of people are switching to podcasts. I mean, some of the most famous people in the world are like either famous because of their podcast, or they switch to do it. Joe Rogan, biggest podcast in the world, and that guy has done everything from MMA to freaking comedy, like everything. So I mean, yeah, it is the independent industry everywhere, whether it's podcasting, online stuff, or music or books or everything. It is really bigger than it's ever been, and it's really the way to go, because you can be canceled the next day for anything you say, just because somebody in a suit doesn't
Right.
like it. And yeah. So I definitely support you and your journey, and that is fantastic. And thank you so much for coming on. I know I've been trying to get you on for a few weeks. There's been some delay, but it's awesome to finally have you on. What is the first piece you're going to be sharing with us tonight?
It's called Hope.
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 All right.
And I wrote it when I was severely depressed. And
That's the state I write most of my poems in.
you
It's the
should
state I
know
use most of my life, actually.
Yeah.
All right, I'll drop myself out of here. Let's hear it.
Okay. So it's called Hope, and it says, in the depths of deep despair, depression's got me in its lair. No energy to get me out of this bed, lying here wishing that I were dead. Sleep evades me for the seventh night, lying here waiting for God's guiding light. In the dark I say a silent prayer. Will God leave me in this deep despair? I watch the sunrise with hope renewed. If only more prayer I had pursued. Faith takes hold and I have some hope. I realized I'd been at the end of my rope. If not for God's saving grace, I wouldn't be writing this on this page.
Wow, I like that. I like that. That was amazing. That was I like how it started off just you could really feel the and I relate to that when I get in those depressed states, and I think that a lot of people can. You can't even get out of bed. You don't want to move. You turn off your phone. You stop answering texts, calls, knocks at the door, and it's just drains you mentally. You don't even want to even get up and make something to eat. It drains you mentally and physically, and you did great at conveying that. And then I love how you transitioned and like there was this hopeful ending, and like I like that I saw I it wasn't unexpected because the title of the poem is called Hope, so I was expecting something to do with hope, obviously, but it was nice to see that feeling of despair and then how you transition. And it wasn't a very long poem, so it was a very quick and seamless transition, and I really like how you wrote that. That was amazing.
Thank you. That's how I felt when I was
how,
depressed. So
how long so did you now you said you wrote it when you were depressed. Did you write the entire thing while you were depressed, or did you write the ending when you were maybe in a better mood?
I wrote the whole thing when I was depressed.
Okay.
And the ending was or hopeful,
That's good that you can see a light, even like a light at the end of the tunnel, even when you're in the darkness. That is really what art is all about, is using it as a tool to see the light even when you're in the dark. And you did that amazingly. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm gonna bring our other artists up here real quick to see what they thought about it and see if they have any questions or comments for you.
It was a perfect depiction of depression, because hope is the joy you have even when you're depressed. And Dylan, like you described it perfectly. You don't want to eat, sleep, walk, talk. Like depression is hard. Like my schizophrenia, it's based all around rulership. It's based around because like I said, I had an affinity for Hollywood and things of that nature. And it wants me to stop writing. It wants me to stop, it's a negative presence in your life the whole entire time. So a poem like Hope, that's literally how I'm walking now. It's just I'm happy, I'm good and all that, but it's still hope, because you have something always telling you you're not nothing, you know? So that's absolutely beautiful. I loved it.
Thank you.
That is on that topic. Something I wanted to add is there's always I've explored this in a few of my pieces, such as Speaking to Demons, where that there's always that voice telling you that you can't or you're not good enough or whatever, but at the same time, like that darkness, that demon, whatever it is, it fuels us in a way. We wouldn't be able to push forward into the light without that darkness. You know what I mean? Without it, like it makes us stronger in a way. Shannon or Skedaddle, did you have something you want to add?
I actually wanted to go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I actually wanted to say something about the flyer. I heavily related to that as someone who is partially disabled. You depicted it perfectly. The want to do these things that you physically can't do. It's like on top of depression, it makes it so much worse. You depict those emotions perfectly.
Thank you.
No problem.
Shannon, go ahead.
Hope. Hope, definitely. That one got me. I kind of choked up a little bit on that one. Just the relatability and the way that you word kind of being stuck in this place, and then when there's nothing else left, you have this hope to keep going. You have this hope to kind of get out of the dark cloud of depression. And I don't know, that one definitely got me in the feels. It was like, oh yeah, I feel that. I have felt that. I don't know anybody that could hear that doesn't get a little bit choked up. Very well done. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
The spirituality too, like the God part of it. It's always there. That positivity. You know, we think creator of all things and things of that nature. So I love that. I love that because it mimics. It resonates. So yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic piece. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Is there anything else anybody wanted to add before I bring us up to our fourth artist? All right. I'm going to drop you guys down, and that brings us to our last, but certainly not least, the wonderful Miss Shannon Province back again. It is an honor and an absolute joy to have her every time she comes on. I love her writing. I love just talking to her. She's great. She's just awesome. If you guys want to check her out, you can follow her at Shannon Province on Facebook. Or if you want to possibly become a beta reader for some of the fiction books she's working on, you can email her at gcoffee, that's GEE coffee 61381 at hotmail.com. Yes, Hotmail. Anyway, we're going to bring her up and play her flyer. Oh.
Okay. Could you hear me yelling? I was like, don't play my flyer.
No, I put the music. Yeah, I put the music on it. I
Okay.
remembered.
I am going to send you a new flyer at some point. One of these
No,
days.
that's okay. That's okay. I remembered last minute. I was like, oh, she doesn't like the sound that was originally on there, so I deleted it and I put the music over it. So
Thank
you're all,
you.
yeah, no problem. Welcome back. Thanks for coming back on.
Prepare to be highly disappointed. I can't.
No way. No
Yeah.
way you could ever disappoint us. No way.
I'll try.
So you obviously been on before, but you want to tell us a little bit about yourself for those of us who don't know you?
Not really much to tell. I mean, I play around with writing here and there. I've been working on a fiction book since like 2014. I'm eventually going to get back into the sending out sessions for beta reading. So I probably end of January, beginning of February, I'm going to start sending those out again. If anybody wants to be a beta reader, let me know. I don't have an ending for the story. So I'm going to take a consensus at some point with some of the readers on which way to go for the ending, but that's a ways out.
Endings are always hard. Endings are the hardest. You got to wrap it up. Somebody's always going to have a problem. Somebody's always going to bitch. Somebody's always going to get on their little fucking, no. Well, this loophole, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Always, and you just gotta finish it the best way you think that it should end, the way that satisfies you, that you sit and you're like, that that's the
Yeah.
ending I wanted to see for those characters, or
Well,
like
and I kind of follow along with Stephen King's take on it. It's not the destination, it's the journey. So if the story lives in your mind after you've read it, unless the ending is absolute trash, like
yeah,
it's not gonna matter as much as long as the journey along through there was memorable. So
yeah.
we'll hope for that.
Well, good luck, and I would absolutely love to do some beta reading if I have time when you start sending those out.
First on
But
my list.
awesome, awesome. Who's the or what's the sorry? What is the first piece you're going to be doing with us tonight?
It's called From a Freckle on God's Arm. It's mouthy. A lot of words.
Yeah, I've been saying a lot of words tonight. A lot of mouthful sentences going on in this show. I understand. This is quite the title though, and I can't even begin to guess what it's about, but I'm so interested, so I'm gonna drop myself out of here. Let's hear it.
Yeah. I'm gonna turn off my camera though, because I look really weird when I'm reading. How do I turn this off? Aha. All right, give me just a second. From a Freckle on God's Arm. When God was a very small child, he discovered he could make freckles on his arm with the touch of his finger. His freckles were to be his companions. He named them all and loved them equally. He had large ones like Jupiter and Saturn, and small ones like Pluto. As he grew older, his freckles became less intriguing and little more than decorations. So he set upon finding his favorite of the bunch and thought of ways to give it life. He experimented with all of them, but ultimately chose Earth to be his muse. He started small by adding the most basic of life, then became bolder in his creations as he aged within himself. Finally, he created what he considered to be the recipe for which he shall be eternally entertained. He added a dash of intellect, a pinch of wonder, and most importantly, a heaping portion of his very own heart. With much joy and amazement, he watched as his tiny freckle expanded and changed. He sent messages and gentle guiding cues to push along his ever-evolving masterpiece. After some time, he began to sense the first real sparks of emotion and independent thought within his tiny world he so proudly created. As he grew and aged, so did his creation. It had indeed taken on a life of its own. Sadly, after a long period of time, the freckles started to crack and crumble. Upon closer inspection, God saw its little life forms had begun destroying each other within their own world. Upon even closer inspection, he found his very blood had become the warring factor between the living cells within his body. His creations were fighting over the blood that fed his existence. He had some very hard decisions to make. He sent many warnings and less than subtle signs to his little warriors, but they seemed to no longer acknowledge him. Eventually, the damage they were doing to his flesh started to affect them negatively as well, but they seemed to pay no mind, for they were so hungry for blood and war. God contemplated cutting off his own arm to rid his body of this failure. While he pondered on this idea, the volatile little lives of his earth started to spread across his arm to other freckles, destroying them in the process. The cancer that was once life on earth was killing him one heavenly body at a time. The cancer crept across his arms and shoulders, ravished his hands, and strangled his voice. Eventually, the cancer reached his mind and squeezed him into a deep, sorrowful sleep. In this sleep, he dreamed of the horrors his creation was doing to his barely living body. In his final dream, the cancer had reached his heart. Then something unexpected happened. Life from Earth retreated, began repairing the damage it had done. Perhaps it was the rushing sound of God's heart that had changed the tide of events, some eternal memory of where it all came from. Nevertheless, God's creations chose to create new life and harmony once again to the body it had almost destroyed. In this dream, God never awoke.
Dude, that was awesome. That was just an odd, like that was just like as a reader, that was just an awesome story, and just like an amazing metaphor, an amazing fucking metaphor. And I love how you always do that with your writing, even though it's fiction writing. There are these deep, like underlying messages and metaphors. You know what I mean? And just the way you conveyed our destruction of our own planet, and like through like literally we're like killing God through this cancer. It's just, oh my god, that was amazing. That was awesome. That was so great. Like that's one of those stories that like, so I grew up kind of listening to like a lot of like short storytellers. They were big like in the early 2000s. They would come to schools and stuff like that, and they would do like little stories or whatever. And they were kid stories, but they would always have, I remember this one artist, I think his name was Simon Brooks, and he always told these like fantastic stories about like a spider or like a like whatever, but they would have these like huge deep underlying messages that I didn't even realize until I got older, or maybe I did, and they were ingrained in me, but I wasn't really like, when you're a kid, you don't think about that.
Or is your brain?
Yeah, when you think back on the story, like there was a story that was about killing death and how that affected all, like you killed death, so then cows and chickens couldn't die anymore, and then we couldn't eat or whatever. And like your writing has that same like feel to it. Every time I ever hear your writing, it's just like I get lost in this fictional universe, but at the same time I'm like it makes me think about the problems that are going on in my own universe, and
Aww.
it is fantastic the way you write.
Thank you.
Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about that and like when you wrote it or whatever?
I don't remember when I wrote it. I wrote it a long time ago. And I found it not too long ago, and then I was like, oh. Well,
Yeah, I do that.
I don't remember. I think I was. I'm pretty sure we were living in Portland, Oregon at the time, and that is a very eco-friendly place to live. To the point to where, being a girl who moved there from Kansas, I didn't realize how heavy my carbon footprint was, or even what that was, until I had moved there and was introduced to so many different things that I think a lot of different places need to have, like, mandatory composting and recycling and stuff like that. And I think I was kind of surrounded by this, beautiful city that puts a heavy emphasis on taking care of our planet. And it was very refreshing. But it also kind of put me in this really sad place where I felt like so much of our existence is killing off a piece of God, in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that, and that I love that metaphor. Even if you're not religious, there is undoubtedly a force, whether you want to call it just the universe or God or freaking Allah or whatever it is. There's a force that is more than just physical. It's more than just tangible, which you can touch, and what the physical aspects of what we do to our ozone and our planet and just everything that affects us on more than just a physical level. It affects the energy of our world, and like literally the vibrations and energy of our world and our universe. And yeah, I loved that metaphor. That was amazing. I'm gonna bring our other artists up here to see what they thought about it. Um,
I loved it. I absolutely. I'm just a poetic writer. Period. Point blank. And even it's so hard because I hate to be redundant or just with the mental illness. My mental illness is based around like spirituality, and I'm like a warrior for God, and through writing and stuff like that, my poetry and stuff, I'm helping to influence a wake up call in the world. So it's triggering. So I fixing in fixing the trigger part to make it negative, listening to other people's writings, it's like, wow, even if they don't hear voices, they're still going through the same thing. And just your metaphor on, God's creation and his heart, and a freckle turned into something so big, and then all the negativity, it was just beautiful, and it was just plain refreshing. And I'm from Portland, Oregon. So
Yay!
I look at stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, spirit animal, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
I just loved it. I mean, that was absolutely beautiful, and I love stuff like that. It's love, it's anguish, it's hatred, it's healing, it's everything all in one. That was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
and
have to agree. And the metaphor thing, I was with Dylan with the like being kind of confused with the name, and you delivered. That was one of the best poems I've heard.
yeah,
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
fantastic.
I was going to say that it was absolutely beautiful. You had me right there the whole time with you, and I'm just amazed and in awe over that story. And if you want a beta writer, I'm here.
Oh, I would love it. Oh my gosh, I would love that, especially, hearing some of your stuff. I've literally heard two things, and both times I about cried. So that
Thank you. Yours was amazing, though.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, one of my favorite stories I've heard. One of my favorite. Like it was just that's hands down, and I think that's my favorite. From you, I could be wrong. I have to go back and watch past episodes because I think you've been on twice now. This will be like your third time, so I'll have to go back and watch. But definitely one of my favorites
Aw,
for sure.
thanks.
That was fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're gonna bring our first artist back up on. I don't know what I'm doing with my hand here. How you doing?
No, yeah, I'm pretty
Good.
tired, but
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll power through this, and then we'll all go pass out. I gotta be at work at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So.
ooh, fun. Thankfully,
Yeah.
tomorrow is lazy Sunday for me, so I've actually been like on a decent schedule recently. I've been doing like mobilities in something called the Wim Hof breathing method. It's I would look into it. It's really fucking cool. It's a lot to explain, so I'm not gonna get into it on this.
Okay.
But
All right. Yeah. So is it to do with anxiety or sleep or just calming the mind or?
it's more for like calming the mind, and so the Wim Hof technique is three things: mind prepping, cold exposure, and the breathing method. Not in that order, I don't think. But it's like taking cold showers, and then it like it helps your circulatory system and like stuff like that.
Oh,
And it does
cool.
help. It's helping me quit nicotine. Actually, that's something that
Well,
I've been doing.
there you go. That's a plus. Well, yeah. I mean, we are all about mental health and recovering from addiction, and here, so that is perfect. Right within what we're talking about. So, yeah, everybody go check that out one more time. What is it called?
Wim Hof technique, Wim Hof technique.
All right, cool. And so what is the second piece you're gonna share with us tonight? I think you said this is a new one.
Yeah, naughty or nice. I threw it together like literally last minute before coming on here.
All right. Well, next week is our Christmas episode, but this is an early preview.
Oh yeah. Oops.
Here, no, it's all right. It's the Christmas season. Tis the season, everyone. Tis the season. All right. So, tell us about this piece.
So, I was getting kind of bored of just doing one thing, and I've never really done a festive drawing. So I was thinking, what am I gonna do? So I went for like a pinup advent calendar deal. It's like,
Oh, that's cool.
when you pull, you got the ladies on there.
Yeah. I knew when you told me the title, I knew it was going to be something. I knew it was going to be some kind of pinup or something. They both have elf ears?
Yep.
I feel like that's something that you do like not quite often, but I've seen you do it in other pieces before. Is that
elves are like, I love elves. I love their ears. They're adorable. So,
all right. So she's a candy cane, obviously. She's got the candy cane, like, and you want to explain her, this naughty, evil chick.
You got Santa's elf, and then you got Krampus. You're like,
oh, I haven't even thought of that. Yeah, that's a cool take on that. For those people who don't know, Krampus is a urban legend of basically like the evil version of Santa Claus. Instead of bringing kids presents, he just takes your kids.
Yeah,
those are his presents, and then he eats them. Dude, this is getting itchy. I gotta.
Yeah.
That does not make me feel merry at all. No, this is a wonderful piece, though, and honestly, like, I really like when you're like the way you do. I don't know the technical art term for it, but your profile, the faces.
Oh yeah.
It's very. You are a lot of artists. When you look at their artwork, you'll notice a lot of their faces kind of look the same. And I noticed with your artwork, like you're able to distinguish them, in like a way like they look very, you know what I mean? Like you can tell their different personalities through their faces and what they look like, and it's not kind of like a copy and paste. Like this is what I use.
It's something called same face syndrome, which is something I had a problem with a while ago. This is practice to not do that, actually.
Yeah, well, you did an amazing job. I'm sorry if everybody needs to see my face, but I'm just leaning close to the TV so that or the TV, the freaking computer, so that I can see this. But yeah, no, I mean your detail is impeccable, and I like that she has like just her eyes are like way too big for her face. Like it does no human. That's definitely a freaking elf because no human has freaking binoculars.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm definitely going for
and whereas the other girl is more like reserved and like you can feel the coolness of her attitude, like in her stare. And that's just like when you can feel the character just by looking at the art, you know what I mean? You can get a sense of the character. Like you did an amazing job as an artist. And I feel that every time I see your artwork is I just get a sense of the character and just the story just by looking at, you know, what you've done with, you know, their facial features or their outfit or their scenery around them. Like, the other one was very scenery related, and it relied a lot on the setting and the background, and that was fantastic. But yeah, I love that you're able to create characters with no words because I have to use up to at least 1,500 words. Qualifies as a short story. You got 3 words on there. Naughty or And then these girls, and they just say it all. I mean, they don't need to say much more. We'll bring these other artists to see what they have to say. So like that transition?
As a Gemini, I'm obsessed with this. And like the elf meeting like pinup girl, I love that. That is super hot. Like
Thank you.
that is beautiful.
I appreciate that.
I thought the faces are your signature. I thought it was beautiful. Like that's your stamp. You know, the faces look like, because it looked like your smoke break. It looked like sunbathing. It looked like that's your signature, girl. Don't change that. Just
Yeah.
Thank you.
unique little tweaks make them different. You know,
Yeah.
it was fabulous.
That's what I mean. Like when you draw a face, you always start with the same structure. You know what I mean? From what I don't do much drawing, but from what I know, you start with a basic face structure, and what I was taught in art class is that like that oval, and then that freaking whatever, and that's how a lot of faces can turn out like looking the same, but it's literally it's down the artist and their talent is how they can bring it to life with those little details you're talking about. And that's what I mean. Just like she's able to tweak things, you know, in their jaw or their upper eyebrows or their hair or whatever, and it creates a completely different character.
I appreciate that.
Very beautiful.
I love their eyes. Their eyes are so fun. I don't know.
I like doing like it's like fantasy colored eyes, I guess you'd call it, like pinks and blues and like but like bright blues, purples.
I love that. My nephew would be obsessed with your work. I actually need to show him some of your stuff. He's really into like manga and anime. And
That's right in my style.
I love it. He would, oh my gosh, I have to show him now. Like I'm sitting here trying to like not text him because I would have to shut this off.
Yeah, definitely the kind of art that like I was saying earlier, I want it like up on my wall. I mean, I don't want I'll have, yeah, especially the freaking pinup girls, the naughty or nice. I mean, my girlfriend will kill me, but it's staying there. I'll screw it into the freaking wall. I don't. But yeah, no, you create fantastic characters, and I'm not like, I don't watch too much anime unless you count like Avatar or Naruto, which doesn't really count.
Naruto counts. I can't tell if Avatar is a cartoon or an anime. You know what I mean?
It's made by Americans, so but there are Asian, I'm not sure whether it's Japanese or Chinese but there are producers who make the show too, you know, because they're from that country and it is based in that country. So I'm not really sure what to qualify. I don't know if it has to be like based in Japan or China to be considered an anime. I'm not sure what the rule is on that. Yeah. Because I know that Naruto is like based in
Naruto's an anime.
And then it's dubbed over.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I completely missed Sylvia. Sylvia, did you have something you wanted to say?
I
about
like the ears, I was going to say. I enjoy the ears.
Yeah, the ears are fun. The ears are fun. I like the little. Yeah, that's cute. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and thank you again for being on. If you can stick around for the end of the show so that I can say hi and thank you one more time, that'd be awesome. If you got to go, I get it. That is gonna bring us back around to our second artist, which was Neela. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Loving this one. I really do.
That's great. I'm like fucking blown away every time that people come on here, and I just get to see like so many just the unique styles and just so much talent, and so much, like, I hear things and think about things that I wouldn't think about in my day-to-day life, or I wouldn't ever think to consider. And it is just so refreshing every week to be able to
Yeah.
do this. So thank you for being part of this.
Oh,
And
thank you for having me. Yeah.
yeah, your energy is infectious and I love it. It's great.
Thank you very much.
What's the second piece you're going to share with us?
This piece is called Society
Society.
and
Okay.
poem. So,
All right. I get
here,
myself.
okay. This poem is called Society. Society, society, not built of true piety, but what you excuse will happen to you. Yes, what you excuse will happen to you. Blood-soaked land called the red, white, and blue. What you excuse will happen to you. Murdered children, culture, broken treaties. No honor this land's histories told you to. But still people come and profit off their shores. So what you excuse will happen to you. Yes, what you excuse will happen to you. White's superiority complex while colored dies at your doors. Always ignore the true immigrants destroy the purity of this land. Violence is always at their hands. What you excuse will happen to you. Yes, what you excuse will happen to you. Walls built to keep natives out, while cops kill freely in the ghetto, too. No justice or peace. Is the judicial judgment the truth, or always not guilty? But what you excuse will happen to you. Yes, what you excuse will happen to you. Parades by the KKK chanting for racial inequality, representing this nation's violence upon the ones who sustain its existence, the reason the pride exists, while getting no empathetic credit for it. Where's our moment of silence? But what you excuse will happen to you. Yes, what you excuse will happen to you. Black's life matter as long as it doesn't compromise my white privilege. While your government secretly ushers in the new world order, Zionism they call it. Do their prideful citizens know? No. The white man, the white man had his time. Look at what he brewed. Time to turn this around and raise up God's truth. Because what you excuse now you're going through. Yes, what you excuse now you're going through. Ruins of other nations people love to visit, never looking at the true picture. These are judgment decrepits. Because what they excuse now they're going through. Yes, what they excuse now they're going through. Judgment coming for Edom, hidden name for the red, white, and blue. Your government thinks they can fool God. What they put others through will happen to you. What they put others through will happen to you. Judgment's knocking too. God was always watching you. Now judgment's coming down because instead of repenting, you ignored what's happening, the truth. So now what you excuse, now you're going through. Yes, what you excuse is eternal judgment for you. That poem is called Society.
Fantastic. I fucking love that. I'm sorry for anyone watching or listening to this on Spotify who just had to hear me clap into the microphone, but that was amazing. And I love that. What you excuse will happen to you. Just that. Oh my God! When you come on here, you are one of those people that I very much expect when you come on here, that I'm definitely going to be forced to think about my society and the world around me. And you do it in such an amazing way. And you've come on here before and shared similar pieces that have just made me go like cheer on one hand, like that you're saying it, that you're standing up and saying these things, but on the other hand, like they also make me angry. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Because we're destroying our world, because the government's so corrupt, because all these awful things are happening, and because everyone's fucking ignoring it. Everyone's just head buried in their phone, no fucks given, and just, but what you excused will happen to you.
yeah,
And I love that. Like it will come back to you. It will.
yeah,
And people don't fucking realize that. And it's just like they just got their head buried in their phone and not like like what I try to do here on this show is I mean, obviously we're on our phones, we're on our computers right now, but we're reaching out to one another. We're conversing, we're communicating, we're opening up about topics, we're bringing light to topics, we're seeing it, we're not excusing things, we are bringing light to them and doing the only thing we can as artists and using our art to bring light to them, because that's what we need to do. With so many people excusing it, there needs to be the other people fighting back and bringing light to it. And
Right.
I love that you make that your mission.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic.
That mission. I love variety in my poems, but I also love to put thought in people's heads. You know, it's beyond just something so simple and minuscule as black and white. It's a spiritual thing. If you know it's wrong and you excuse it, you know, it should happen to you, so that way you can understand it. It isn't one of those, oh, you're going to go through it just because. No, it's, if you don't understand the plight, then you have to go through it so that you understand the plight. And if you've gone through it and you still don't understand the plight, who are you? You know, are you human? You know, so and that was during a time, like I said, it was during a time I was dealing with the Hebrew Israelites, you know, looking for God's truth and stuff like that. And I was looking at all these different religions and things of that nature. And the Hebrew Israelites, that religious part is about waking up the 12 tribes. Black people finding their identity, natives, Mexicans, and things of that nature. That's what they describe. It's about finding your true identity on the earth, things of that nature. So, you know, but that's just one part of it. And in the Christianity, you know, I grew up Christian, but I'm a spiritual person. I was always just a spiritual person. So now when you're with spirituality, you realize it's a spiritual thing. You know, it doesn't matter of this, something so minuscule as skin color. It's about what your heart is. You know,
Right.
it's just like her, God's freckle, you know, God's arm as a freckle. It's a spiritual thing. That was like spiritual for her to write. That was, you know, and then I'm from Portland, Oregon. I look at stuff like that. You know, it's like, oh, you're my tribe. You know, it's, and us artists, you know, we don't know anything else but our art. And, you know, that's our true selves. So yeah, I love that. I can be goofy, I can be fun and all that stuff, but I can also be serious too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, you have such a like amazing, like joyful energy when you come on here, but I love that you're still able to like deliver those messages that you know make some people angry, that make us angry, and but direct that anger positively, you know, into a positive outlet. And that is fantastic. I'm gonna bring everyone else up here, see what they think.
That was absolutely haunting and chilling. I mean, like, I totally got goosebumps. I love the fact that you repeat it almost like a warning, like this blaring alarm. Oh, it was very, very impactful.
thank you.
One of my favorite sayings is what goes around what goes around comes around. Karma is very real. So like I
Yeah.
highly resonated with that. And like the fact that you dug into those deep topics like that is like, oof, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's in my head, definitely. The repetition, it really just kind of pounds it in and really lets you, you know, makes you think about it.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite part too, was like you guys are saying, the repetition, the like blaring warning over and over again, like we need to wake the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. That was fantastic. Absolutely. I'll clap quieter this time.
Goosebumps. That was so.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's going to bring us back around to Sylvia. Now, Sylvia, I believe, has two more things she wanted to share with us. She has a poem and a story. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was thinking with the time that probably the story would be better to do right now.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to say that this story is my heart because this place that we grew up in was very racial and it very racially motivated. Really good foot, thank you. I'm on here. I'm on here. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
It was very racially motivated. And what happened to us was we were called racial slurs every day, and we were called racial slurs every day, and they killed our pets. They chopped up my cat. They shot our dog. I had to go to school every single day, and every single day I was called those names. And what motivated me to write this story is that now Victoria is my niece. She had to go through some of it in another town, but basically Victoria is me in this story, and it's about what she's going through at school, and then she goes through a dream. And I'll go ahead and just start reading to you.
No problem.
Now Victoria came home sad after her first day in her new school. She sat on the end of her bed with her head hanging low, her long shiny black hair spilling over her shoulders. That's when her mom walked in. What happened? She asked her mother. Nothing. She drew her knees up under her chin and wrapped her arms around them. Come on, you can tell me. Why did we have to move here anyway? I want to go home. The kids here are mean. At every recess, they told me to go back where I belong, but I belong here. They called me names and said I don't look like they do, that my skin is darker than theirs is, and my hair it looks wrong. Mom, it's not wrong to be different, is it? No, honey, everyone is important and everyone matters. I'm sure once they get to know you, things will get better, things will be different. But Victoria didn't think so. When it was time for bed, Victoria pulled back the covers and climbed in. Her parents kissed her on her forehead, pushing back her shiny black hair. Victoria was so tired, and she immediately started to dream. She opened her eyes. She saw nothing but white everywhere, no color at all. What a strange place. It was as if everything was drawn in pencil, and it was raining, pouring, coming out of a colorless sky. She was soaked to the bone. She had her bright red school backpack over her shoulder. I gotta get out of here, she thought. She started walking, putting her arms out in front of her, feeling back and forth just in case there might be something there. She spotted a tree in the distance with what looked like the outline of an animal tied to it. As she got closer, she could see it was a llama. They were both shivering. It was wearing a small saddle. Would you let me ride you? She asked her new friend. It's the only way we're going to get out of this endless rain. Victoria grabbed the reins and swung her leg up over the llama's back. She looked around and looked up. They were standing at the foot of a giant mountain, with a giant building on top. It almost looked like it wasn't there. Again, looked like it was drawn in pencil. She squinted her eyes, and it looked like it disappeared. It looked like a giant castle. They started their way up the mountain. The rain was coming down, hard as if it were trying to wash away Victoria's color as well. They reached the top of the mountain. To the right was a little building. Victoria opened up the door. Inside was some straw on the floor. You stay here, she told her llama friend. Get warm. Everything? Get warm. Again, it was as if it was drawn in pencil. Victoria walked up to the castle. She had to knock really hard, and she had to look really hard to see it. There was a knocker shaped like a rainbow, but without any color. She was scared. She took the knocker and knocked 3 times. Boom, 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 but put her hands over her ears. No one answered the door. She knocked 1 more time. Boom. This time the door slid open just enough for her to slide inside. Creak! She heard a voice that said, Come on in out of our endless rain, Victoria. Welcome to the land of the rainbow people. Victoria felt like she was going to faint. Don't be scared, child. Victoria slid inside the door. It was gray. There was a fireplace, but the flames were not orange or yellow. They looked like they had been drawn in pencil. Who are you? And how do you know my name? We have been waiting for you a long time. Come, warm yourself by the fire. I'm sitting over here by the fire. My name is Fuchsia. As Victoria felt her way closer, she could see a very important-looking old woman, but she was still very beautiful, sitting in a tall throne. Have a seat by me. She patted the seat of a chair. Victoria felt she could trust this person. Her voice was so sweet. She stopped by the fire, rubbing her cold hands, then sat down. No one said anything for a while. Then the questions came spilling out of Victoria. How do you know my name? Why do you call this the land of the rainbow people? Why is there no color anywhere? What happened to it? And why is it called the land of the rainbow people? She asked again. There's no color, but Victoria touched her sweater. But on you, said Fuchsia. One question at a time, Fuchsia, is also the name of my kingdom. Where is everyone? Asked Victoria. They are here. You just can't see them. It's been raining here for 1,000 years. Like I said, we have been waiting a long time for you. Why? Said Victoria. You will soon see. You see, a very long time ago, our land had color. It was the most beautiful place in the universe. It was painted the most beautiful colors imaginable. Fuchsia, Fuchsia, was made queen to rule over the land of the rainbow people, which wasn't a hard job because everybody was happy and everyone was beautiful and everyone got along. But little by little, it all started to change. So what happened? It would be quicker if I showed you. It'd be quicker if I showed you, she said. Come with me, child, and grab my hand. Fuchsia opened a large dusty door. Inside was a large dusty mirror covered with a dusty cloth. Fuchsia pulled it down. She said, This is the mirror of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Ask it what you will, and it will show it to you. It started in the homes of the rainbow families. You see, each person was painted a different color by the maker of all things. Just like everything here was painted by him with his love, for he does love beauty. Why else would he make such a beautiful paradise? Look into the mirror and it will tell you everything. Everything you want to know about. Victoria looked into the mirror and said, Take me back to the beginning. In a flash of light that made her close her eyes and a gust of wind that almost knocked her down, she was watching a blue family getting ready for school. The mom was doing her daughter's hair. And she said, You're so much more prettier than that your orange friend of yours. You're different. She's different than us. Only blue children are beautiful. I think you're right, Mama, said the girl. No, said Victoria, you're both beautiful, but alas, no one could hear her. Then she watched the blue girl go to school. At recess, she wouldn't play with her orange friend. I don't like you anymore. You're different than me. This made her orange friend start to cry. The other children were watching, listening, and went home and told everything to their parents. The parents said those children are not as beautiful as our children. We are better because we are green or violet or yellow. It didn't matter. It was always the same. Don't you know that everyone matters? Screamed Victoria. But again, no one could hear her. It got worse. The parents were fighting each other until war broke out over the land of the rainbow people. Fuchsia did her best to stop the fighting, but it could not get through. She could not get through to the people. The maker of all things tried everything, but no one wanted to listen. This saddened the maker of all things so much that his tears had been falling for 1,000 years and washing away all color from the land. There is no rainbow land left. He painted this beautiful people with his beautiful paintbrush, and now he cries. Fuchsia had been talking to Victoria all this time from a chair behind her. Victoria said, I've seen enough. Let's go back and sit by the fire. Victoria sat with her head hanging down, her shiny black hair hanging down over her shoulders. Can't anything be done for your world? Said Victoria, in a whisper because she felt so bad. We may have one hope, you, Victoria. You could save the land of the rainbow people. What, me? I'm just a little girl and being treated just like some of these people are being treated. Exactly. You can warn the people of Earth. What you saw and experienced here is going to happen there. The maker of all things is saddened about how these things are going on. And these things are still going on in your world. And he still has many tears to cry. I don't know if I can make a difference, but I'll try. It's late, said Fuchsia. You should sleep here. Sorry. I don't know if I can make a difference, but I'll try. It's late, said Fuchsia. You should sleep here. You have a long journey tomorrow. I will prepare a room for you. Victoria crawled under the covers in a huge room in a huge bed. She wouldn't sleep. She was thinking of what the rainbow people were asking of her, and and if she hoped that she could slowly help somehow. She slowly drifted to sleep. She slowly opened her eyes. She was in her own bed, in her own room. Yes, it was all a dream. She tried to convince herself. She got ready for school, almost forgot her red backpack. She was going to be late for school. Victoria, Victoria, it was her teacher asking her to read from the book her class had been reading from. She reached in her backpack. It was damp. Instead of the book that she was reading, in its place was a fuchsia-colored book called Victoria and the Rainbow People. She stood up and started to read.
That was awesome, and I really like that. I really like that ending, finding the book in her bag. Um, that was much like Shannon's. That was a wonderful metaphor and just such a captivating story from beginning to end. It just sucks you right in. But also, it sucks you into this fictional imaginary universe, much like she did. She got sucked into, but then gives her and us real life insight on the things going on in our own world. And it had a very Alice in Wonderland, or I don't know if you know Coraline, that kind of vibe to it, where they get sucked into this universe, and it might be a dream, it might not be a dream, we're not really sure, but it's all or Wizard of Oz too, and it's all a metaphor for the stuff that's going on in her real life, and I mean, like, especially with Wizard of Oz, there's a lot of metaphors with racism and whatnot in that, but one of my favorite things that you did was the whole color metaphor. You know what I mean? Especially the line where you said it felt as if he was trying to wash the color away from her, or something to that effect. I really enjoyed the metaphor and how you used like orange or purple and but it conveys these very deep messages about the skin tones in our own life and how they're looked at, and it shows that white is no different than purple. You know what I mean? Like, and it shows that they're all humans, and that they could be freaking pink polka dotted. You know what I mean? But they're still humans. They're still people. Right. And I love how you portrayed that. You did an amazing job.
Yeah, sorry about my mom. She kept coming in here.
You're good.
Yeah.
I have relatives walking back and forth too. This mic is probably going to pick up everything. I'm sorry.
On Spotify. It threw me off quite a few times. I think my favorite part of the story is how the maker of all things painted everybody the same. He was beautiful and how his tears were crying and washing away. That's why the world had no color.
Yeah, that reminded me a lot of Shannon's piece, with relating to how it hurts the creator, it hurts God, or and like that we're destroying our world, and it's affecting the energy of the universe and the creator who made it all. And I really like that you guys use that metaphor in your writing. I'm gonna bring you guys up here to comment and talk about it. Go ahead, Shannon, if you wanted to.
I could see that so vividly. Like, the imagery in your writing is beautiful, and just talking about like the creator's tears washing away the color that he put on everyone. That was so heartbreaking. Like, I can imagine if I was a little kid hearing this story, that would make me cry. Like, it's so visual. And the dusty blanket over the mirror, like you can just see it in your mind and almost smell the dust. And a woman drawn in pencil whose name is Fuchsia, but she's just black and white. You can tell that there was some type of, you know, sadness or terrible event that happened, and it was very, very well written. I loved
Thank
this
you.
story.
Thank you. I'm trying to, it's too wordy for a picture book. And so I don't know whether I should make it into a middle grade book and keep adding to it, or that's where I'm at right now, where I'm trying to kind of like, I've already like
I
cut a lot
really,
out of it.
I don't think it's too wordy. Like, have you read What the Wild Things Are? Tons of words.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
If you read Where the Wild Things Are, it's a
Oh,
children's.
okay.
It's a picture book. It's a children's book. Tons of words, very wordy, and that's what makes it memorable, especially for kids. You know, hearing these stories.
yeah.
Is it's kind of that in between where it's a full story. It's not a kid's book, but it's not completely an adult's book.
Right. And there's definitely room to add to that. I mean, just with the ending of how she found the book in her bag, there's so much room to go with that. You know, or add to the beginning or in the middle. There's so much you could do with that. But yeah, I do think personally, my opinion, a middle grade type thing. Like, I mean, the three that I mentioned at the beginning, Coraline, Alice in Wonderland, and Wizard of Oz, those are all, you know, in that same vein. You know, they're middle grade. They're not for adults, but they're not for children. And they have those deep underlying messages
There's elements in it.
be ingrained into children's heads. You know, and that's something I really love about like those kind of things, or Disney, is they make movies for kids, but they know the adults are watching, so they make it funny for the adults, and they make it deep and emotional for the adults too. And you guys, particularly you and Shannon, are fantastic at doing that in your stories. I have to say that is something that I mean, I write more poetry and songs than I do stories nowadays. But that's something that I always like really tried to emulate in my story. Like I've always tried to talk about real world issues in anything I'm talking about, whether it's my own personal issues with depression or whatever. And yeah, that's just something I love is the metaphors that you guys use to convey real world issues.
I think the main metaphor in that was the creator crying, because it's metaphoric to, everybody remembers the flood. You understand? It's like the creator crying, like, am I going to have to do this again? Like, am I going to have to make a new creation? I mean, like, why can't they just get it? You know, you're all the same. You all bleed, you hope, you cry, you're sad, you love, you marry, you know. What are you fighting for? You know, so yeah, I give you paradise and you're fighting for what? You know, so just absolutely beautiful. And I'm a child at heart. I'm an adult kid. So I would love to see that, both you guys' stories, like with pictures. And I'd love colors. Like fuchsia is my favorite color. So that was just like, yay. I love pink. I'm like hot pink girl forever. And I'm just cheering it on. It was just absolutely beautiful. I love it.
Thank you.
There is a really good visual artist here. I mean, I
I
was almost seeing some of like her style of art when I was listening to your story. Somehow, like, it got transposed. And Victoria, bless her heart, she has elf ears in my mind.
Yes.
Beautiful and adorable.
Get started on it. Your next piece could be the cover for Victoria and the Rainbow People. I could honestly, that seems like such a coincidence, because that feels like a title, and I know Skedaddle pretty well. We've known each other for a long time. That feels like a title that she would come up with for one of her pieces. Like it really does. It really fits that
I bet
her.
you could draw Victoria.
Send me the piece, and that's something I would definitely be willing to do.
I think that's a beautiful collaboration. Like, look what you're doing, Dylan.
I love collabs. I love getting people to collab with each other. I'm working on a couple collabs with like 3 or 4 different artists that I've had on here. I love doing it. It's awesome. And I would love to have Skedaddle do artwork for my pieces too. Particularly Speaking to Demons. I've been meaning to talk to you about that for a while. We'll talk more off air. And I'll text you about it. But Speaking to Demons is something that I really want a good visual artist for, because it's to me, it's such a thematic piece. But yeah, you are fantastic. You are all fantastic. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for sharing that with us. Did you still want to share that poem with us, or did you want to save that for next time?
If I have time.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay. This is about my mom. And
right. I'll try not to cry.
Yeah, no, it's not a happy thing about a mother. It happened when I was 17. And this is what happened. It says, I went crazy when I turned 17. It was an ugly, ugly scene. Mama just went 1 inch too far. It's what left me forever scarred. She asked my brother to shoot my pet. Mama would hit me with whatever she could get. Oh, Mama, why? After that, I just wouldn't try. So I went crazy at 17, locked me up in 3 hospitals, thought of Mama and how she'd belittle. I didn't know if they'd ever let me out. I'd think of Mama and I'd just scream and shout. I'd wander the halls several times a day, thinking of Mama and the terrible things she'd say. I'd think of different ways to escape. Look outside, just staring at the landscape. Just stood there staring out the window, blinking, but it wasn't the way that you were thinking. What would Mama think if they just picked me up off the floor, wheeled my dead carcass on out the door? They threatened to lock me in a rubber room. Life was all darkness, sadness, and gloom. I thought of Mama and felt empty inside. Deep down, that's where the scars they hide. It all changed one day when I walked by a room. A girl was praying, or so I presumed. It started me thinking, so I bowed my head to pray. Maybe I haven't forgiven Mama yet, but I just might someday.
Damn, that was heart-wrenching. I can't. I don't honestly don't have words for that, but I have goosebumps for sure. Yeah, that was. Can you want to talk a little bit about that piece? I mean, it's obviously if you're not comfortable, but it's obviously a very deep emotional piece for you.
Yeah, she was very hard to grow up with. She's very abusive. When I said she'd hit us with whatever she could get, it would be wooden spoons, her shoes, spatulas, you know. She would ask us sometimes, do you like your teeth? And we'd say, yes, Mom, we like our teeth. Would you like to see them in a bloody pile on the floor? So, it was so hard growing up. And she hasn't changed a whole lot, you know. She has mellowed out in her old age, but she still is very much Mama.
One thing I do have to say is you are 100% the better and bigger person for the way that piece ended. And it sounds like you're at least still able to talk to her or have some kind of relationship with her in the modern day. So that is fantastic, and that makes you so much more better person than I would be in that situation. I had my own problems with abuse when I was younger. He's dead now, So it's not really a thing that I have to come to terms with.
I live with you.
Have a like existing relationship with this man. But yeah, I mean, you are 100% probably a better person than I would be in that situation. So props to you. And I'm gonna that being said, because I really have no words. It really that hit me hard. That just me having gone through some similar situations, and a lot of my friends going through way worse situations than I ever did, and similar situations to that. Just I also was in the foster system for a while, so I saw a lot of kids that came from very abusive families, and I had a lot of friends who I just wished I could just save them every fucking day. I just wish I could save them from their situation. So that hit me very hard. I'm gonna bring these other artists up here to see what they thought. Yeah, Neela.
I absolutely I empathize with that because I actually have a poem. It's called A Parent's Pain. And a lot of people, I work with the elderly and that generation, and they were raised off, spoiled, spare the rod, spoil the child. So they feel, the beatings was okay.
Yeah,
That they felt it was all right to do.
it
I
does.
have my mother, she was molested and she was blamed for the molestation. My grandmother beat her in between the legs. So it was one of those things, like they felt it's a generational thing. And I wrote a poem about it. I'm like, a parent's pain, because it was like you have to step outside yourself and what they caused you and say, how were they raised?
Mhm.
What happened to her? If she did this to me, who did this to her? And it's just about breaking that generational curse. Like, you're naturally, you taking care of your mother and letting it out, poetically and things of that nature, but still taking care of her. It shows your empathy and a curse you broke. You understand what I'm saying? So it's
I
like
am.
it's a parent's pain. It's just,
I'm
open.
pretty sure what you're saying with the generational thing. I'm pretty sure that it was like a like between the 30s and the 50s was like a mandatory. If you didn't beat your wife and your kids, like you were the outcast.
Yeah.
You were on the outs. Everybody else was like I was like a and you know what I mean. And it just to think about something like that, hurting the people you love being a normal everyday thing that you talk to your buddies at work about, like that just blows my mind that generation was like that.
Yeah, her mother was that way. It definitely is a multi-generational thing.
Yeah.
Grandma was very abusive towards her.
Yeah. Skedaddle, do you have anything you want to add or
As
Shannon?
someone who has a not so great home life, I highly relate to that, and I see you, and you are very strong for going through all of that and coming out as amazing as you did.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. That was I'm glad that we did not skip over that or save that for next time, because that was 100%. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on the show. Stick around for the end. I'll bring you guys on and just say goodbye and thank you one more time before we end the stream.
Okay.
And we're gonna go bring us back around to Shannon, and then I will share some things with you guys if you'd like. Shannon, are you there? I can't see.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. No, you're good.
And now I had to turn it off on that one. No, I mean, gosh, just listening to her, I was like, okay, I'm turning my camera off. My face is getting snotty. So
Yeah. There's a few pieces that have been performed on this show that I've been very late to click the button because it takes me a minute. That was one of those pieces where I just it took me a minute. Like, I knew when the piece was gonna end, but I was just like I needed to breathe. Yeah. That hit me hard. Yeah. Definitely one of the one of the more emotional pieces we've had on here.
It's very
Yeah. What's the next one you're going to be doing for us?
Oh, it's a really short one. I was debating between this one and a poem, and I decided this one because it's short.
Okay. All right.
It's called Ecotone.
Ecotone. All right. I'll drop myself.
Okay.
Oh.
Give me just a second. It always takes me a minute to pull it up on my computer. So it actually starts off with the definition of what an ecotone is. It's not really a poem either. I don't know what it is. Ecotone, noun, a region of transition between two biological communities. Examples of ecotones include marshlands between dry and wet ecosystems, mangrove forests between terrestrial and marine ecosystems, grasslands between desert and forest, and estuaries between saltwater and freshwater. Calamity, noun, plural noun, calamities, an event causing great and often sudden damage or distress, a disaster. Somewhere between our thoughts and our words, feelings and actions, there is a blurred reality, neither oasis nor calamity, the convergence of two pressure systems combining science with religion. With the pendulum ever alternating, will we cling to the all-pervading desire of neutrality, just somewhere in between insanity and reality? This is our ecotone.
I like that. I really like that. It's very complex. Not complex, but it makes you think. It's again another one of those pieces, and every one of your pieces honestly is one of those pieces that makes you like stop and think. And I think the technique of using those definitions and starting out by laying out clear definitions of what these words are, and then outlining how that relates to our own society and ecosystem. You know what I mean? As a whole, like just you're very fucking good at that. Like using those metaphors to open up my mind and really make me like think about bigger concepts. And that technique that you used with the outlining the definitions was it almost made me feel like it was a movie or something, like the beginning of a movie, like you know what I mean, like that like what like this is the beginning of a movie, and then that like that's what leads into it or whatever.
Well, it was kind of one of those things where there's such this beautiful gray in between, like the reality. I mean, I know reality is very subjective to each person, but between like, you know, a shared reality and kind of this insane, crazy space in our head that, you know, is you know, delusion and you know, it completely exists only within our mind, and there's this happy place in between that could either be, you know, like the convergence of two, you know, pressure systems turning into a massive storm or a tornado, or it could simply be the coexistence of the two worlds, which, and I really do think that is, for me, kind of the understanding of each person's reality is what is going on inside of their head and how are they interpreting the world around them, and that in between place, that is that is where the two meet, and that is their reality, and that is their ecotone. That is that, blending of, the craziness in your head versus the craziness outside of your head. And I don't know. I think I was high when I wrote it, honestly.
Hey, you know what? That's how I write most of my pieces, either high or depressed or both. You know, one usually comes with the other, but
Yeah, exactly.
and then the creativity flows. But yeah. I mean, just I love again the way that you use your metaphors and to make me think, and also the duality in your writing, how you can see multiple people's perspectives. I mean, kind of as a fictional writer, you have to be able to create multiple different characters with multiple different personalities, but you can see both sides of this convergence, and you know what I mean. And you're very good at outlining not just the problem, but why the problem is happening from both ends, and the consequences of what will happen if this continues. Much like with your I forget. I'm sorry. The God piece. What was it called again?
From a freckle on God's arm.
A freckle on God's arm. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about you. It is fantastic, and this is a very unique piece. Like the style of it, the tone of it, very unique. I love it.
Thanks. Honestly, I think I was just stoned and perseverating on a word that I found fascinating and just kind of got lost in it. So I don't know what it is. It's there.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes like we don't even sit down with a mission. Like sometimes I'll just get a word, like just one word, just like that, and my whole piece will be built around that word because I'm just like I'll just get stuck in this zone, or I'll I'll be stoned and I'll just be like just thinking about the universe and like how everything works and just get way too and I'll stop. I've written like 3 pages and I'm like, dude, no one's gonna sit there and freaking listen to me on my show.
Sure they will.
Read this crap.
I would. I think most people would.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I thank you for coming on and sharing your pieces with us. It's been amazing. It's a joy to have you on every time.
Thank you.
Everybody, I'm gonna bring everybody up on here just to so they can say thank you and ask you any questions or give their feedback and whatever.
You're a Gemini. You're a natural Gemini, and it reflects in your, and then I love how your humility, where like you revert back, oh, I was just right. Oh, I was probably high. Showing that little kid like that immaturity that you guys have about that I love because I'm immature too, but I can be deep. So it's just effortless, and I absolutely loved it. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. Skedaddle, Sylvia, you just
I was just going to say I enjoyed it. It was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
The way you pronounced it, I want to add to Dylan's movie thing. It sounds like the intro to a movie.
Yeah.
Like the way you it was sultry and
oh my, thank you.
I don't know how to explain it fully, but
when two worlds collide.
Yeah.
When someone reads a definition.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it was great, and it was definitely something that I could picture, like again, being at the beginning of one of your stories or at the beginning of one of your books or whatever. As that that intro, that movie, because when I read a book, it's a movie in my head.
Yep.
So yeah, that's how I pictured. That's how I pictured that. Is like that when when a movie starts and it's like a black screen and then just the words pop up in a land. Like that's what I pictured. That was fantastic.
That's fun. Thanks. Yeah, I'm actually tiptoeing, dabbling in research on recording audiobooks for other people. So
awesome.
Uh,
I audiobook is one of my favorite formats of book or of like media. Period. I've listened to audiobooks since I was a very, very little kid. I
Same.
mean, I think I started like I was telling you, I started with those little short stories. And then I think I moved on to like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson and man, once I heard Harry Potter, it was all over. It was all over from there. I was hooked. I was like, I'm gonna be a reader. I'm gonna be a writer. It's just in me. It's in me. Like,
It's
yeah,
like somebody can create all of this
yeah,
with their words.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
actually
Like shy.
hmm?
I'm shy like that, so I'd rather write instead of like be the actor. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, when
Right.
I read and all that stuff, like I was picturing everything you guys said in color, and then we have an artist who shows it in color. So this was a phenomenal session. I absolutely
This was
perfect.
so fun.
Yes.
yeah, thank you guys. This has been awesome. Thank you guys so much. Before we get out of here, I'm gonna share. I think I'm gonna share two pieces. One of them is pretty short, and then the other one, I don't think I've done it on here before. I don't think I've ever performed it actually. I might have done it on another show at some point, maybe a couple years ago, but I'm not sure, or months ago. I don't know, but we'll see. It's new to you guys. It's new to the Lost Boys Cypher Circle, and so I guess we'll start out with the shorter one. The shorter one is called. My computer's tweaking out on me. Of course, when I go to pull up my poems, it tweaks out on me. Okay, Every Quiet Moment is the name of this piece, and it is about the need as an artist for everything to be perfect, for everything to be just like I was talking about, when I write a piece, I try to say everything I have to say about the piece. I try to put like my all into it, everything, my heart, my soul, and make it just the best, most perfect piece it can possibly be. But I wanted to perform this piece because of what Jelly Roll said to his fans at the concert I went to, which was work on progress and not perfection. And that really, really hit me. And it really reminded me of this piece. So I'll drop you guys out of here and I'll read this piece. This is called Every Quiet Moment. For an artist, every quiet moment is a rainbow. Every rainbow is just the calm before another storm, merely an intermission in a play that never ends. The curtains will never close. There will be no roll call, nor an encore to this epic tragedy. So do not applaud. Do not even rise from your seat, because the show will go on. The show must go on. The presentation must be perfect. The delivery flawless. If there is but one mistake, the crowd will disperse into nothingness, leaving the last performer reciting lines in an empty theater under a spotlight that never shone to an audience that was never there. And that's Every Quiet Moment. What'd you guys think of that?
Ooh, the anxiety.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, I wrote that like, honestly, it's kind of somewhat inspired by a song by Eminem called "Walk on Water" with Beyonce, and that song is about his need for perfection. He's already done everything in his freaking career. What more can he do? Yet people keep wanting more from him, and I was just like kind of thinking about that concept and just thinking about like how it's like that for every artist. The show must go on. We have to keep doing it because it's at our core, like Mila was saying at the beginning. It's at our core, at who we are as people. It's all we know. But yet, like, not everything you put out can be perfect. Not everything can be flawless. But it's that need for everything to be the best or better than it was before. And that's kind of how I feel with my art a lot of the time.
I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. And that's why I always love to. I like to. When are you going to perform? I love that because you always give a different insight, and the way you depict all of our art and then you're kind of hard on yourself. And it's like, what are you hard on yourself for? It's freaking beautiful, So, I loved it. And I like that depiction, because you never know when an artist is supposed to stop. And it's like, they're not, just show us where you are. Show us your mental, It doesn't
Right.
always have to be. The hard part about the celebrity type artist and us is we can keep going. It's always to get back money. You know what I'm saying? So if they drop the money card and the numbers and all that, they'd be
And it
forever.
keeps them from being able to perform what they want to sometimes, or
Yeah.
write what they want to, and then actually express, which is how they started, which is why they started, and now they're trapped in this thing where they can't do
Yeah.
what they wanted to, what they're meant to do, what they're set out to do, because they're trapped in
Right.
this money pit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So it's like
love the
preparation.
pacing of it.
Thank you.
It creates like an empathetic anxiety. Just the way you kind of build up with it. It's like I could feel that.
Yeah, it's a short piece, so it had to have some kind of something to draw you in and keep you there for the time I had you, So, yeah, and that's definitely
Definitely pulled it off for sure.
you. Thanks. Skedaddle, did you have any questions or comments for me?
Just as a burnt out artist myself, that it's so fucking relatable. Like the of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys. I really, that's one of my shorter pieces, but it really is one of my favorites just because like it means so much to me as an artist personally. Like I struggle with it every time I write a new piece. Every single time I go to write something else, I end this piece, I'm satisfied. Maybe a day or two goes by, and then I'm like, all right, I got to start working on the next one, and then it's like back to the same thing. But yeah, it's a very personal piece for me. It's always has been. So thank you for your love and your support on it.
It was
Appreciate
very
that.
strong. Very strong.
Thank you. This next piece I'm going to perform is the one that I don't think I've ever performed it, and if I had, it was on someone else's show, not my own. And this piece, once I get it pulled up here, Jesus, there we go. This piece is called Beneath the Surface, and it is about the kind of the inevitable descent into anxiety, which leads into the descent into depression. That is very hard for someone with bipolar like me, or any kind of anxiety or depression disorder, to pull themselves out of. It starts with one thing and it kind of spirals, and then you're just so deep you can't get out. And that's kind of what this piece is about. And it's called Beneath the Surface. On the surface, there is peace, an almost palpable stillness that fills the air so completely that one could almost feel the atmosphere vibrate with the tension of such absolute silence and tranquility. Beneath the surface, though, there is a battle being fought against nature itself, a struggle of mind and body, of soul and spirit, of life and death. It starts with something small, a bad thought, a particularly vivid or intense memory, a passing glance at some long forgotten keepsake, a small innocent drop of chaos that will, of course, do what it does best and expand into something uncontrollable and uncontainable. It comes over you in waves, like the creeping effect of a drug. With each passing thought, you can hear the blood pumping faster and faster, and your breath's getting shorter and shorter. You can feel the cold, merciless grip of something you can't quite name closing around your chest. With each breath you take, your lungs just seem to get tighter and tighter. A slow, steady pressure starts to build in your head like an impending volcanic eruption. Finally, through the haze of confusion and tension, you realize you're drowning from the inside out, and there's no one coming to pull you from these dark, murky depths. Then comes the panic, the fear, the desperation, the need to do something, anything to save yourself from sinking deeper. You feel out in front of you, grasping for any support you can use to pull yourself back to the surface, but you've sunken so deep that you can no longer tell which way is up. Even as you struggle to find your sense of direction in this dark, endless prison, you know that fighting will only rob you of what little strength you have left. Darkness is closing in now, making everything else fade into nothingness. The last air is pulled from your lungs as you let out one last hopeless cry for help. But all that is seen on the surface is one meaningless ripple in an ocean of sunken ships and giant icebergs. And that is Beneath the Surface. What do you guys think?
That was beautiful.
Thanks.
You depicted that perfectly. And the like sunken icebergs or giant icebergs, sunken ships, that like gave me goosebumps.
Really? I honestly wasn't sure about that line when I wrote it, if it was gonna be like too corny or not.
No,
Not at all.
Really trying to end it like satisfying, and yeah.
no, it was perfect.
Yeah. Like all of us, I think what's so great about our writers, period, is we're all in sync.
Mhm.
We're like in sync. And like that one,
Yeah, we vibrate on the same frequency.
yeah, all we're all there. And so it's just beautiful. It touched my soul as if it was mine, you know. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. I remember the first time I had COVID, I was scared to go to sleep because it was really, really hard to breathe. And it was a very depressing time as well. You know, the whole world was in a depression. And when I finally started to fall asleep, I had that feeling of drowning and that struggle and that anxiety. And it was partially emotional and partially physical. And listening to you on that, like my mind was kind of brought back to that time and just that struggle. Like, do I use the energy to get through this, or do I just give into it? Which way is up and which way is down? And it definitely creates a lot of anxiety, you know, just that feeling of sinking. And the icebergs and sunken ships, I think that correlation between the two is so impactful. Like, it's palpable. You can almost feel it around you. I love how you worded it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely like one of my more, I guess you could say, wordy pieces. I definitely, that was in a time when I was very very Robert Frost, very Edgar Allan Poe, very like experimenting with as many big and complex words as I could, and just trying to broaden my vocabulary in general. And that definitely comes through in that piece. But like I hope it wasn't too, like, you know what I mean, it didn't wear on you too much. It wasn't like too over the top with the very because that's something I struggled with for a while too, is I just like add too much vocabulary. It was like very clear that I was trying to sound smart when like I am smart, so I don't need to freaking like I had to step back and realize like people will realize you're smart if you just write like normal.
Yeah.
I don't think it sounded contrived or anything like that, though. It was very visual.
The metaphors are the intelligence. It's not really the words. A lot of people think big words and stuff is the intelligence. It's the metaphors. That's what conveys. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, Sylvia, go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm bipolar. So when you were reading your poem, I was right there with you, feeling what you were feeling. And you really came across as hitting the nail right on the head.
Yeah. And I know, like, you know, that could possibly be, that poem could possibly be triggering for a lot of people. That's probably one of the reasons that I haven't done it. Or that it was filed away, I should say, is because just I know that a lot of people can relate to that, and that feeling of drowning and just not being able to, like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, you know, not being able to get out of bed, not being able to, like, you've just sunken so deep and you can't pull yourself out. And I know a lot of people relate to that. So I'm really happy that I was able to like touch you guys' souls with that, and that you guys feel the same way. So
I found it helpful.
absolutely. Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate it so much. We're going to close out the show here. But before we do, I want to remind everyone we are on Spotify. Go check us out. Go subscribe on Spotify and on YouTube. And we'll be on Google and everywhere else pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. Again, thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been a blast.
Thanks for having me on.
Can't wait to
Thanks,
have you on
everybody.
again.
You guys.
Peace out, guys.
Peace.